Thanksgiving in the Miller house had always felt like walking on eggshells fine china, polite smiles and conversations that cut sharper than carving knives. That night, though, it wasn't just awkward. It was war served with cranberry sauce. Lauren Miller, 32, stood at the counter mashing potatoes, her sleeves rolled up, her heart already tightening from the silence behind her. She'd arrived 2 hours early, as always, because someone had to help Mom, and someone always meant her. Across the kitchen, Linda Miller, late 50s, elegant and exact, stirred gravy like she was commanding troops. "The potatoes need mashing," she'd said when Lauren walked in. No hug, no smile, just orders. Richard Miller, her father, sat in the living room recliner, pretending to watch the football game, pretending not to hear. That was his talent, staying quiet when things got ugly. The front door burst open and a voice filled the house. "Hey, family Mark Miller, 34, the golden child." He carried a bottle of imported wine and the kind of confidence that came from never cleaning up your own messes. Behind him, his new fiancée Danielle, all soft curls and nervous smiles, clutched a bouquet of supermarket flowers. Linda's face lit up as if the sun had followed Mark through the door. "My successful boy," she said, kissing his cheek. "How was Toronto?" "Another big meeting crushed it," Mark said, loosening his scarf. "We closed a deal worth 6 figures. Lauren smiled faintly, setting the bowl of mashed potatoes on the table. "That's great," she murmured, though no one heard her. Dinner began the way it always did, Mark's voice filling the space. Linda nodding like a metronome, Richard mumbling approval between sips of whiskey. Danielle laughed too loudly at every joke. Lauren stayed quiet, cutting her turkey into small, even pieces. She'd done the cooking, the setup, the cleanup to come, but sitting there, she could have been invisible. Then Linda spoke, her tone honeyed but sharp. "Must be nice, living alone. No real responsibilities." Lauren's fork paused midair. She forced a smile. "Yeah, the mortgage fairy really helps with that." A beat of silence. Linda's eyes snapped to her, cold and narrow. "You've always acted like helping us was some huge favor," she said. "You're not a saint, Lauren. You're just a burden. Always have been." The word hit like glass breaking. Even Danielle stopped laughing. Lauren blinked. Once, twice. Sure she'd misheard. Then came Mark's voice, smooth and cruel. "At least one of us makes this family proud." Something inside her went still, not shattered, just quiet. She set her fork down, wiped her hands on the napkin, and stood. "Where are you going?" Linda asked, her voice rising. Lauren looked at her, really looked, and said softly, "Home." No shouting, no scene. Just the sound of a chair scraping back, the front door opening, and the night swallowing her whole. Outside, the air was cold and sharp, and for the first time in years, so was she. This time, she wasn't coming back to fix their mess. Lauren drives home from Thanksgiving in silence. The echo of her mother's words, "You're just a burden," still cutting through her chest. The windshield wipers move rhythmically, like the years she spent keeping things running while no one ever noticed. When she reaches her small apartment, she sits in the dark, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. It's strange how quiet feels heavier than shouting. Her mind drifts back to the last 5 years, the ones she never talked about, when her father, Richard, had his heart scare. The hospital bills stacked higher than the kitchen counter. Her parents said they'd figure it out, but they never did. Lauren had stepped in quietly, paying one invoice at a time, pretending the help was temporary. Every month, she told herself she was just helping until things got better. They never did. She remembers writing checks late at night after her own double shifts, slipping them into envelopes with shaky hands. Her name never mentioned at the dinner table. She didn't do it for credit. She did it because that's what family meant to her, showing up, even when no one saw you. But the truth had been there all along. Her mother, Linda, only lit up for Mark. When Mark got his scholarship, there was a dinner party. When Lauren landed her first full-time job, Linda called it cute. When Mark missed a loan payment, Dad shrugged it off. He's under pressure. When Lauren asked for a little help with car repairs, silence. Now, staring at her small apartment, the one she fought to afford without them, Lauren feels the difference between alone and free. The word burden echoes again, but something inside her shifts. Maybe she's tired of carrying the word like proof of love. She opens her laptop, pulls up her banking app, and scrolls through the recurring payments. Mortgage, utilities, medical, all under her name. All for their house. Her fingers hover over the cancel button. A small, bitter laugh escapes her lips. "If I'm such a burden," she whispers. "Let's see how light they feel without me." With one click, the screen refreshes. The autopay disappears. It's quiet again, but this time, the silence feels like power. The next morning, Lauren wakes before dawn. The city outside is still half asleep, the kind of quiet that makes every decision feel permanent. She brews coffee, sits at her kitchen table, and scrolls through the messages she didn't open last night. 2 from her mother, short, clipped sentences. "You overreacted. Let's not ruin another holiday." And 1 from her father, "Call your mother." Not a single question about how she's doing. She sets the phone face down and stares out the window. The sun hasn't risen yet, but she can see her reflection in the glass, tired eyes. A woman holding too much. She thinks of all the mornings she spent rushing to work just to send her paycheck back home. She'd covered for them for so long, she'd forgotten what her own money felt like. Her laptop hums to life. She opens her spreadsheet, the one she built years ago to track every bill, every mortgage payment, every quiet act of loyalty. She scrolls through the rows: gas, water, insurance, mortgage. Her cursor hovers at the edge of the page. Then she begins deleting, line by line, month by month. By the time the coffee cools, the list is empty. The phone rings. Dad's name flashes on the screen. For a second, she considers ignoring it, but she answers. "Lauren," Richard says, voice heavy with sleep and annoyance. "Why is the mortgage unpaid?" She leans back, calm. "Ask your pride and joy." A pause. "Don't be disrespectful." "I'm not," she replies softly. "Just efficient." Then she hangs up. The silence afterward feels clean. Later that day, while she's grocery shopping, another message comes through from her mother this time. "We need you to sort out the mortgage before it affects our credit." "Don't be childish." Lauren laughs under her breath, shaking her head as she pushes the cart down the aisle. Childish. That's the word her mother always used when Lauren didn't fold fast enough. By the time she gets home, she's made up her mind. She logs into her online banking one more time, deletes the reminders, and cancels every linked payment. A notification pops up asking for confirmation. "Are you sure?" She clicks yes. That evening, her phone buzzes again. Group photo notification on Facebook. Thanksgiving picture. Her parents. Mark, Danielle. Caption, "Grateful for family." Some people leave, but the ones who matter stay. Lauren stares at the image for a long moment. Then she smiles, not bitter, not sad, just done. For the first time in her life, she's not their safety net, and for the first time, she feels lighter than ever. 2 weeks pass before the first real silence. No texts, no guilt trips, no sudden emergencies. Lauren starts to believe they might finally stop depending on her. Then, one Friday afternoon, her phone rings with an unfamiliar number. She almost lets it go to voicemail, but something about the area code her old hometown makes her answer. "Ms. Miller," a man's voice says, "this is Kevin Brooks from Lakeshore Lending. We're calling to follow up on your recent mortgage application." Lauren frowns. "My what?" The man hesitates, the rustle of paper on the other end. "Your mortgage application for 324 Linton Avenue. That's your listed address." "Correct? Her blood runs cold." 324 Linton Avenue. Her parents' house? The same one she used to pay for. "I didn't submit any application," she says carefully. More paper shuffling. "You didn't authorize a cosigner named Mark Miller." The name hits like a slap. Her brother. No. She says, voice steady even as her hands start to shake. I did not. He apologizes and promises to email a copy of the file. Lauren hangs up, her pulse drumming in her ears. When the email arrives 10 minutes later, she opens the PDF and everything inside her goes still. Her name and signature. Forged. Her income statement. Fabricated. Her old bank account details ones she hasn't shared with anyone in years, filled into boxes labeled verified. And there it is, bold and smug at the bottom, co-signer Mark Miller. Purpose of loan capital for family business venture. She leans back in her chair, the world tilting slightly. For a long minute, she doesn't move. The betrayal feels bigger than anger. It feels surgical, precise. Her own brother had used her identity to secure money for some half-baked dream, and her parents must have known. When she finally stands, her hands are trembling, but her mind is clear. She scrolls through her contacts until she finds a name she hasn't dialed in 2 years, Marissa Grant, the lawyer who once helped her with a work dispute. Calm, sharp, and brutally efficient. Lauren, Marissa answers. Surprised but warm. It's been a while. I need your help, Lauren says, her voice low. Someone tried to take a loan in my name. Marissa's tone shifts instantly. Send me everything you have. Lauren attaches the file, the email, screenshots of her bank statements. Within minutes, Marissa replies, lock your credit immediately. I'll file a fraud report. Then we'll talk about how loud you want to be. Lauren stares at that last line. How loud do you want to be? She's been quiet her whole life, polite, dependable, invisible. But now, the quiet feels like a weapon pointed at her. She closes her laptop, takes a long breath, and whispers to herself, loud enough to never be ignored again. Outside, the city hums unaware. Inside, Lauren Miller, the invisible daughter, starts to become something else entirely. By Monday, the whispers begin. It starts with a phone call from Rachel, Lauren's cousin, the one person who still checks in without an agenda. Just a heads up, Rachel says carefully. Your mom's been talking to people. She's saying you're not well, that you're going through something. Lauren presses the phone tighter to her ear. Not well, Rachel exhales. She's calling it a mental breakdown, says you're unstable, that you're lashing out. For a moment, Lauren doesn't say anything. The hum of the refrigerator fills the silence. Of course, she finally whispers. Of course she is. That night, she scrolls through social media, mutual friends, old neighbors. Even distant relatives are posting vague, concerned messages, praying for those struggling during the holidays. It's not hard to see where it started. Her mother doesn't confront, she rewrites. Lauren closes the app and stares at her reflection in the darkened laptop screen. If they can't use me, she murmurs, they'll break me instead. The next few weeks blur. She goes to work, comes home, sleeps little. Food loses its taste. Some nights she sits in the shower until the water runs cold. Other nights, she lies awake replaying every conversation she ever had with her family, trying to pinpoint the moment love turned into obligation. The exhaustion is bone deep. At one point, she opens her fridge to find a half-empty carton of eggs and a wilted bag of spinach. She just stands there, door open, the cold air spilling out. She doesn't even have the energy to close it. When her phone buzzes, she almost doesn't check, but it's Rachel again. They're saying you made up the fraud thing, Rachel says quietly. They think you're trying to destroy Mark. Lauren leans against the counter, a bitter laugh slipping out. Destroy him? He stole from me. I know, Rachel whispers. But they don't want to believe it. Lauren sinks to the kitchen floor, her back against the cabinet, staring at nothing. The hum of the fridge continues, soft and steady, the only sound in the room. For years. She kept the lights on for them. Now, sitting alone in the glow of the open fridge, she realizes something cruelly poetic. They took her silence as weakness, but soon, silence will be her weapon. The morning she finally leaves, the sky is gray, low, and heavy like it's been listening to her for weeks. Lauren packs a small duffel bag, a notebook, a sweater, a thermos of coffee, no phone charger, no laptop. She drives out of the city without telling anyone where she's going. 3 hours later, she reaches the lake. Her grandfather's cabin sits at the edge of the water, half hidden behind pines, its wooden porch sagging like an old secret. She hasn't been here in 2 years, not since before everything started unraveling. The silence here isn't empty, it's clean. Inside, the air smells faintly of cedar and dust. She lights the fireplace, sets her notebook on the table, and for the first time in months, breathes without thinking of who might need her next. Outside, the lake moves in slow ripples, reflecting a sky that refuses to choose between sun and storm. By the second day, her thoughts start to settle. She writes for hours, names, dates, payments, memories. Not to prove anything, but to remember who she was before she became their lifeline. She writes one line over and over again until the ink nearly bleeds through the page. If they called me a burden, maybe it's time to stop carrying them. At night, she sits on the dock wrapped in her grandfather's old flannel jacket, listening to the wind move through the trees. She imagines her mother's voice, Mark's laughter, all the noise she used to mistake for love, drifting further away across the water. When she finally drives back toward the city 3 days later, the cabin stands behind her, quiet, patient, eternal. And somewhere between the lake and the highway, Lauren Miller decides she's done being small. When Lauren returns from the lake, something in her posture has changed. She walks slower but steadier, the way someone does after surviving a storm they never planned to fight. The first thing she does is clean her apartment, not out of habit, but ceremony. Every scrub of a countertop feels like a small erasure of the version of herself that lived in fear of being unloved. Over the next week, she starts cutting the remaining threads that tied her to the Millers. She calls the bank, removes her name from every shared account, and places a security freeze on her credit. She gives her lawyer, Marissa Grant, power of attorney to handle anything connected to the fraud investigation. Marissa's voice on the phone is calm, sharp. "They can't touch you anymore," she says. Lauren exhales like it's the first full breath she's taken in months. At work, something shifts too. She's been the quiet analyst for 5 years, the one who stays late, fixes problems, never complains. But one Monday morning, during a team meeting, she speaks up. She presents a retention model she's been quietly building for months. The regional manager loves it. 2 weeks later, she's presenting it to executives. By the end of the month, there's a promotion offer on her desk, a relocation to Portland, Oregon, with a higher salary and full moving support. She doesn't say yes immediately. One night, she walks through her apartment, touching every framed photo, every reminder of the girl who kept waiting for her family to notice her worth. "You did enough," she whispers to that old version. Now it's my turn. When she finally signs the papers, the relief feels electric. Portland is rain and mountains, and anonymity a clean slate. Within months, she settles into a rhythm that's her own. She joins a hiking group, takes pottery classes on weekends, sees a therapist who doesn't talk about her family, only her future. She builds a small side business helping local stores automate delivery logistics using the same system that earned her promotion. Each small step feels like reclamation. She no longer flinches when her phone buzzes. She no longer dreads holidays. One evening, sitting by her apartment window, she watches the city lights flicker below. The reflection staring back isn't the quiet daughter or the scapegoat, it's a woman who stopped asking for permission to exist. Lauren Miller has rebuilt her life not to prove them wrong, but to prove herself right. It happens on an ordinary Wednesday morning. Lauren is at her desk in Portland reviewing reports when a new email slips into her inbox. Subject line: Miller Family Mortgage Urgent Inquiry. For a moment, she almost deletes it, assuming it's spam. But then she notices the sender, a small regional bank from her hometown. Her stomach tightens. The message is brief. Ms. Miller, there has been a delinquency reported on a property previously associated with you. Please contact us to confirm your current involvement. The address listed is one she knows by heart, 4131 Willow Bend Lane, her parents' house. The one she'd paid for, then stopped. Lauren calls the number in the email. The woman on the other end sounds polite but tired, the way bank employees do when they've said the same thing too many times. Payments haven't been made in over 4 months, she explains. The account is in pre-foreclosure. Lauren's voice stays calm. Is there any way for me to purchase the property if it goes to auction? A pause. You could, but the notice would have to be public first. When the call ends, Lauren leans back in her chair. For a long moment, she just stares at the window, the gray Oregon sky heavy with rain. Then she smiles, a small, disbelieving smile. They were going to lose it. The house Linda once called the family legacy. The house Mark bragged would someday be his. The same house she'd held up for years without thanks. She calls Marissa Grant that afternoon, within hours. Marissa confirms what Lauren already suspects: the foreclosure filing is public. In 60 days, it'll go to auction. You know, Marissa says slowly, there's nothing illegal about buying a property at public sale. Lauren lets out a quiet laugh. Then I guess I'll be a buyer. That night, she calls Rachel, who still lives a few blocks from the old neighborhood. Mark's back at the house, Rachel tells her. His startup crashed. He moved in with your parents again. They're broke. Lauren, really broke. Lauren thanks her, hangs up, and stares at her reflection in the window. It isn't revenge she feels, it's closure coming full circle. She sets up an LLC under a neutral name, contacts a local investment group, and arranges for an agent to bid on her behalf when the auction day comes. For years, they treated her like the burden that wouldn't leave. Now, they were about to learn what it feels like to be left behind. The courthouse is smaller than Lauren remembers. Rows of stiff chairs, fluorescent lights that hum, and the faint smell of old paper and coffee. She sits in the back, unassuming dark jeans, pressed shirt, hair tied neatly. No one pays her any attention, and that's exactly how she wants it. Her agent, seated near the front, keeps her phone open to a live text thread. The auctioneer starts reading through properties like he's calling roll at school, one after another. Numbers and addresses blur together until she hears it. 431 Willow Bend Lane. Her heart skips. The house. Starting at $242,000, the auctioneer announces. Do I hear 242? A woman in the second row raises her paddle, probably a flipper. 242. 245? Lauren's agent lifts her hand. 245. The rhythm begins. 250. 255. Back and forth until the flipper hesitates. The room falls quiet. 260. Lauren's agent raises the paddle again. 260. Going once. Lauren holds her breath. Going twice. The gavel strikes. Sold. 260,000 to bidder 47. Just like that. It's done. The house is hers. The house they said she never deserved. The one they promised would belong to Mark. Someday it now belongs to her LLC. For 9 days. She waits for the paperwork to finalize. She rents a small room in a quiet inn outside town, drinks black coffee by the lake, and sleeps better than she has in years. Rachel texts updates. They got a notice on the door. Your mom's been crying. Mark's losing it. They thought they had more time. Lauren doesn't reply. On day 10, the sheriff delivers the final notice to vacate. That evening, she drives past the house. The porch light is on. Through the kitchen window, she sees Linda sitting at the table, head in her hands, while Mark paces behind her. Richard sits in silence, smaller than she's ever seen him. She watches from her car, engine off. The image feels distant, like a movie she's already seen. For years, she was the invisible one at that table. Now they're the ones left in the shadows. The next morning, her property manager hand-delivers the letter of new ownership vacate by Friday. No exceptions. That afternoon, she spots them downtown, 3 figures outside the bank, desperate and disoriented. Linda looks up and meets her eyes. For one long second, neither moves. Lauren gives a small, steady nod. Then she turns and walks away. 2 days after the eviction notice, the house on Willow Bend Lane falls silent. The curtains are drawn, the driveway empty. When Lauren finally walks through the front door with her new keys, the air smells faintly of cinnamon and old coffee. Dust floats in the light. Every room feels smaller than she remembers, as if the house itself has exhaled after years of tension. She moves from room to room quietly, not to reminisce, but to reclaim. The kitchen where she once cooked every holiday meal, the living room where Mark's trophies lined the walls, her old bedroom still painted pale yellow, the color her mother called safe. On the floor of a closet, she finds a small shoebox labeled Lauren. Inside are old report cards, a few childhood drawings, and a wrinkled thank you note she'd written her mother in 3rd grade. She holds it for a moment, then places it back. That girl hungry for approval doesn't live here anymore. Weeks pass. The fraud case against Mark moves forward quietly. He takes a plea deal. Her parents relocate to a relative's small house out of state. For the first time, their silence is her peace. Lauren renovates the house but doesn't move in. Instead, she partners with a local nonprofit to transform it into a transitional home for young women aging out of foster care. She sets up a trust in her grandfather's name and covers the first year's costs herself. Months later, she visits one evening. The porch light glows. Laughter drifts from inside, warm, unguarded, real. She stands at the gate, watching. The house that once defined her pain now shelters someone else's beginning. Lauren smiles softly. "It doesn't carry their legacy anymore," she whispers. "It carries mine."